Hey guys, this is Rob John Webb here for Waxadisc, and what I want to show you today are the essential elements to make a new disco track, kind of in the style of like Breakbot, that kind of thing, you know, that kind of vintage synth sound mixed with, you know, modern disco elements and so forth, and some traditional sounds as well, such as strings and things like that. So in this track there are 17 tracks in total, and I think 7 of them are drums anyway, so crash and hi-hats, kick and snare and so forth. But the rest are the elements for new disco. So you've got synth brass, you've got lead lines, you've got vibrato sort of stabs, you've got bells, celestial pads and so forth, and natural strings and a guitar and an arpeggio. Now what I've done here is I've just created like a small template of all the different parts of where the track would break down, you know, where you would have an arpeggio in that section and the string section, and then everything comes back in. So it's just giving you those elements so that you can take away the template and arrange it yourself. So I'm going to give you this template. It's available for Ableton 11 only though, but all of the MIDI files will be in a pack, so you can take them and put them into Ableton 10 or Ableton 9 even, and all of the sounds will be in there as well, the waves. So if you haven't got Ableton 11, it doesn't matter, you can still do it. And you can take these and put them into any DAW as well. It makes no odds what you use, whether you use Cubase or Cakewalk or whatever. So I've broken it down for you, and then all the VSTs that are in here, all the links are in the description of this video anyway, so you can take all of the VSTs. Not one of them costs you anything, they're all free, so you know it's a win-win situation. And you can take this template, all the files, and rearrange them and mix them up as much as you want. Take from it what you will. Now the purpose of this is just to show you all of the elements, and also to show you this is what I do when I teach people privately, because I'm available for one-to-one mentoring as well. Just get that in there. But yeah, if you ever want one-to-one mentoring in this kind of thing, or any kind of, you know, dance music in the funkier side of things, then, you know, do get in touch at waxadisc.com. However, this tutorial here is just going to break down everything. So I'm going to play it for you in its current state where it is. I'm not going to arrange it, that's the whole point. I'm just broken it down into the sections so that you can go and arrange it, remix it, re-edit it, whatever you want to do. Or just play about with it, or to take all of the sounds that you see in this and put them into your own track. So you could take this entire template, scrap all of the MIDI, and then put all of your own your chords and your own riffs and your own ideas into there. So I'm going to play the track now, and then we'll go from there. So this is it. There you go. I tried to put the crash at the end, but it didn't get there in time. However, that's the basis of the track. I did the arpeggio then manually because I've not programmed it in to do the automation, but you get the idea. So the track is broken down, as you can see. I've got all my drums at the top. Now to make this kind of, you know, this kind of robot-y, breakbot sort of thing, you know, this kind of funky, you know, kind of pop new disco, if you like. It's basically, you know, 115, 120 BPM, and just get some nice, straightforward, you know, it's quite a nice punchy kick, you know, and then the hi-hats just quite live sounding. These are just sample packs that I've used, and a nice, really snappy clap, and then on top of that, just put on a nice, the clap on its own is this, like, it's almost like a real live hand clap, group hand claps, and then a snare on top that's kind of that complements the clap, and they smack against each other, so they're not dull sounding. And then on top of that I put an 808 open hi-hat, just to give it a little bit more electric, you know, more of an electric feel. Now the open hi-hat which I've used there, I've shortened it. You know, with a natural 808 open hi-hat, the decay on it's quite long, so I've cut it in half. You can see, look, so it's sharp and it's a tss, tss, rather than tss, like that. You know, it's much more. It has much more bounce to it when it's shortened. So they were basically the drums. So you've got, you know, once you've got a steady little drum pack like that, where the snappy clap and the snare are quite top end. That's when you get that kind of stompy sort of beat, which is you know, essential for new disco sort of music. And then on top of that, there's an electric tom, which is here, which goes like this. And this electric tom, I've pitch bent it, so it goes like this. Let me just find it on the keyboard. Where is it on the keyboard? Let me have a look. So I pitch bent it, so I push the pitch bend wheel right to the top and go, and drops it slowly with each play of the note, so like that. So that's what I've done with the electric tom. If you can see here, look, let's play it. It's just the same note, but when you go over to the MIDI control, you see the pitch bend. What I've done with it there, look. If you haven't got a pitch bend on your keyboard, you can just manually draw it in with the pitch bend over here on the envelopes anyway. So that was that. So there were the beats basically. Now, next thing up, obviously I've got a crash in there as well. It's just a 909, nothing special, but that just fits the track, so to speak. So next up then, obviously we want to get you know, start working towards the musical element of it. So the brass sound comes from the free Cheese Machine 2, which is this thing. It's a really cool synth. I've done a couple of videos with this before. And then the brass sounds here, look, it's the Isabira JX brass sound, and this just goes like, you know, like this, like so. So that's that really cool 80s sort of brass sound. And if you look at the pattern I've done a lot of slash chords where I play a different root note to the actual chord mostly. So this is a natural F major 7, natural E minor 7, and then it's a and what's the third chord? The third chord is a D minor 7, but it's in an inversion. So they're all natural. F major 7, E minor 7, and there when it gets to that E minor 7, there's two E minor 7s here, look. But the root note changes, and that just gives it that lift. So it's played from E minor 7 with an E on the left, and then I move the left hand up to the A key on the lower octave, but I stay with the E minor chord, and then it just gives it that little bit. It just gives it that lift that it needs. So that sound there is one of those classic sounds that you want to use. Next up then, you want to get a bass line. So the bass that I've used is the classic house bass, really. It's the Lately bass, which comes from the OXE. And that looks like this, and it's called the Lately bass. And this is just a straightforward, like almost arpeggiated, just flat notes. But put them together, it's just dead effective. So there you go. So that was that. They're the two basic elements of the track, so to speak, so far. Then next up, we want a lead line sort of synth. So Breakbot is quite synonymous with this kind of sound. It's almost like a brass, you know. And this comes from the full bucket synth, which is the 3200, which is an old Korg remake, I believe. So anyway, this looks like this, and in there is a sound called the Bass Simple. And there's loads of presets in there. It's worth getting this anyway. And I've took the bottom end out, so to speak, and I've just made a simple little pattern. So it goes. A couple of like triplet notes in there, and the riff goes like this on its own. And I've put some delay on that. that's that. That's the lead line sound that you want to get. You know, if you want that classic sort of poppy new disco sound. So that's that. Then next up, then we needed like a vibrato kind of a pitch bend sort of stab sound, which would be. So when you bend the wheel, it modulates. And what with this is the OBXD, which is a great free synth. There's some really cool stuff on it. It looks like that. It's got a variety of skins, so that's the one I've got on there. And then you get all the presets from that. And in there's a sound called the Ebm Bass Lead. And this down below, if you play it on low bass, I put a lot of decay on it actually. So let's take the decay off and the sustain. Just turn that down a bit. That's its natural state. It's quite trancey sort of sound. But you turn up the sustain and the decay so that it gets that kind of, and it rolls over and it keeps the sustain going. And that is just the last two chords of the brass riff, which is there, and it's this there. Look, you see there, look, just 3 notes there, 2 there, 4 there, and 2 there. And I've put that vibrato in it. You know, I've turned that modulation on it to give it that bend. So that comes in there like so. And if I put the brass on, so that's that. And then what else have we got next up then? We've got I'm going to go down a bit here rather than go straight to the bells. I'm going to drop down to the guitar. Now the guitar muted comes from within Ableton's packs here, in the guitar and bass packs, and it's from the guitar clean, and it's just the straightforward guitar mute. Now this sounds like this on its own. Straightforward little muted strat sort of guitar. And so on. And all I've done there is little patterns like this, look. Bounce from one octave to the other. Let's put the brass on, bass on, and then the brass. So that there is the muted guitar, but all I've done is I've got a major wah kind of filter on it from within audio effects, utilities, audio effect rack, modulation and rhythmic, and in here there's loads of different effects you can use, and I've just got the wah one, which is the major wah, and it just gives it that phasey sort of, you know, funky. So take it off, it's dead flat, put the wah on, and just gives it a more of a natural guitar sort of feel, electric guitar feel. So that was that. So that's what I've done with the guitar. And as I say, the pattern is just simple, you know, notes of the. So that was that. And then we have got next is the OXE, the bells from the OXE again. So it's the same synth, but this time we've used a bell, the OXE FM bell. And this is just a tiny little pattern in there, which is on the higher octaves. So if we just loop that section there of the track. And I put the pads on. Guitar, sorry. And that's just to use when you're making a track and you want a bit of a breakdown, you want to get away from the main body of the track. So it's good to use something like a, you know, a percussive sort of sound, like a bell or something, to give it a bit of space. But also in the same breath, use something similar, like a pad sort of sound, like an 80s kind of synth sound, which is this. In a similar riff. And that is the Celestial pad, and this is in Ableton 11. I don't know if it's in Ableton 10, I'm not sure. It's a really nice pad. But get something like that, a Celestial kind of 80s sort of pad, and it just helps break down. If you have, with the breakdowns, you have two separate sounds but with similar riffs, so it kind of goes like this. Look. So yeah, so that's what you do to kind of build it back up, you know, and then you put your electric tom in, and then brings it back to another part of the track. And I've put in there some pads here. So the next synth that I put in is like a pad, like an 80s pad. Proper warm, rich synth sound. And that comes from the free Town Noisemaker, which is this. I think they changed the interface now, that this is the original version. But nevertheless, the sounds are still the same, and it's called the Dream of 86 pad, which is down here at the bottom. And it's just a really cool warm pad. It's got a really nice filter on it as well if you wanted to filter it. So you could have... It's quite soary in its sound. So that's that. So I put that in there, but what I've done is I've just put the chords in of the first two chords, which is the F major 7 and the E minor 7. And that breaks that down to there. So it goes like this. The next part of the track is the arpeggio, so I'm going to loop that, and this comes again from the OBX. It's the same thing. There are so many sounds you could use for an arpeggio, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's kind of polysynth kind of sound. And this is the BSS round bass from within the ABX, which is that one again. And all I've done is I've put a load of delay on it, like 35% and 40 on the feedback, and I've put a ubiquitous arpeggiator on from within Ableton. Set it at 116, it's natural setting anyway, 50% gate, up and down on the preset style. And it just goes like so. So you'd filter it up. So you would have that in the track for a breakdown as well, just to give the track a little bit of movement. So to speak. And then the next part, we go over here and we've got the strings. Now the strings, obviously, in new disco are quite synonymous, you know. Something like that. So what I've done is I've done 2 octaves of the same thing. So naturally, when I play a riff in, I'll play 1 octave and I'll record it in like this. I'll do that, but then I will copy it up to the next octave, so it goes... So then it double layers it and it gives it that extra sharpness on the top end. So it goes like this, look. So you can see it's exactly the same, just 2 octaves. So that was that. So the strings, that was going to the strings. So the riffs for the strings come from the Labs, which again is a free synth. You get all sorts of free sounds from here. It's a really, really cool plugin that you can get, and you get all sorts of stuff for this, for ambient and any kind of music really. So the strings in there, you get the strings pack, and it's the short one, which is the one you want, which is the staccato stabby. And it's just nice to have that natural kind of, you know, element in there against the synths. So that's it. So basically, broken down, that is all of the core elements of the track. So what you want to do is take this template away and have a look at it, study it, and take things from it, or add to it, or, you know, just play around with it. It's just good building blocks for you, so that you can, you know, develop your own style around, you know, some of the classic elements which are required for new disco and that kind of mid-tempo, you know, funkier house sort of stuff. So a quick recap then, you've got a nice set of steady drums, you know, real clappy, sort of snappy snares and claps. Usually a live hi-hat sort of thing under there, as well as an electric one. Instrument-wise, as I say, that kind of solid house bass, which is the... You don't necessarily have to use that. You can use any kind of sort of, you know, electric sort of synth bass. So if I go down the octave... It's just a classic sound, it just works, it just naturally works. Brass sound, just get that really cool sort of synth brass. Get that in there, get a nice lead line. This lead line is just ideal for this kind of thing. Get that in there, and then get your vibrato kind of thing in there, which is pitch bend it. But you only use that in little parts, you know, you don't use it for the whole track, it's just there to have on that little bit there, look. So you get get that, and get the bells in there as well as a nice little, you know, extra addition for like a breakdown section. A celestial kind of pad like that, you know, kind of really eerie sort of 80s sort of sound on top of an 80s pad like that. So yeah, get that. Then get the strings, you know, get some natural strings in there. Take the bottom end out of the strings. Obviously, if you play the strings like without any EQ, it's quite dull. But obviously, brighten it up by taking the bottom out, curving it up, and it comes through in the mix a lot clearer. Guitar, get a Strat muted sort of guitar, you know, and just that. Put some delay in it and get a wah-wah kind of effects pedal plug-in on there. And then arpeggio, you know, get an arpeggio in there, loads of delay, and a nice arpeggio from out of the Ableton presets. And all I've done for that section there is I've just put the 2 chords like that, look. So I've gone up like higher octave, go up higher octave. So yeah, that's what you would do for that. You can just draw in the chords, it would make no difference. You could still just put this pad down here, look, and if I was to put this pad in here and just play it, obviously if I go up the octaves and if I go up to this one, still works. You don't have to have that pattern that I've done, so that would work there. So what I mean, it still works as it was, like so. So that is the basis of the track. So take this template, get all the plugins from the links in the description, and just see what you come up with, you know. And if you come up with something, send it over to me. You know, get in touch with me at waxadisc.com, and or you can find me on Instagram with RobJamWeb or Waxadisc Music and so forth. So that's it really. Any questions or comment in the box below, you know the score now. And go and have some fun with it and see what you come up with. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have fun and goodbye.